Hello, everybody. Welcome to another fantastic episode of For the Fans podcast. We're back after I don't know what to call Week 13. Week 13 was both crazy, but also kind of what we expected at the same time.
Yeah, I don't feel like there were too many games that occurred that we were kind of like, oh, hey, that didn't see that coming. I mean, if I remember, I mean, there were definitely a few. I remember I looked back on my pick'em, and there were a couple, and we're gonna even talk about a few of them tonight.
Hmm.
That I kind of said, oh, that's what I picked, like Chiefs and Packers for one, Jaguars and Bengals for another, Steelers and Cardinals. Honestly, that one was kind of weird too because of Kenny Pickett's injury, just to
Hmm.
name a few.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about Monday Night Football. I'm very upset. I'm
That was
upset because everyone's like, "Oh, the Jaguars get so many calls for them," and blah 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 blah. Like the refs love the Jaguars. I'm like, no, this game proves the refs despise us.
I don't know if all of that was entirely a ref situation. I think a lot of it too was just teams that were just, on both sides of the ball, they were just tired and they were making really sloppy, stupid
Well,
decisions. I
did
think
you
that
see
was the
the
biggest thing.
no call defensive pass interference where the defender literally put his head on Calvin Ridley's like face mask and like really could not see a thing, and they just are like, "Oh, we'll let that go."
Because things just get missed all the time.
I know. And then the phantom
But
holding call, which I sent that over to you because I'm like, I want your honest opinion on that. There were so many people that were like, "Oh, that was definitely a holding." I'm like,
it
for
looked
me,
like
it's
a
like
hold to me.
gray line, border line kind of thing.
It looked like a hold to me, so I almost want to say, depending on the view, I could see a ref being like, yeah, that was a hold. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
my thing was it was like apparently through like most of the game, it was mostly like that call was like a tit tacky call where it was you guys haven't been calling it all game, but you're going to call it when after the ball is thrown and the receiver comes down with it and puts them on the 5 yard line. That's when you throw the flag, and that's where people are like, you guys should have called it the second you
Yeah,
saw it and not after this big play happened, that because that just puts all the air out of the Jaguars. It was weird. It
yeah.
was a weird game. I will say Jake Browning did very, very good. The defense was horrible.
Boy, it's almost like we're talking about this one. It wasn't even part of our wows and the woes.
Yeah, I get sidetracked. Anyways, let's get to a little bit of news because we wanted to talk about
Yeah.
a little bit about backup quarterbacks and almost unsurprisingly, the Jets have
Almost.
released Tim Boyle after his very, very bad performance in recent games, and Zach Wilson is going to be their starting quarterback this Sunday.
Yeah. What's your thoughts on that?
I mean, wasn't there that thing going around where it was where like Zach Wilson was saying, "I do not want to start again"?
Yeah, and let me just point this out with that. I'm not saying that what occurred was, like accurate. You know what I mean? Like I feel like maybe there was a little bit of rumor mill going around with that, and I don't
Mm-hmm.
know if that's true. I think Aaron Rodgers even elaborated on that a little bit on the Pat McAfee show. Um, that yeah, I don't want to know. I don't or no, I do want to know, but I don't know how much of it is true as far as whether Zach Wilson actually said that.
Yeah.
Seems to be. I can see where it's coming from because it seems pretty likely that Zach Wilson will be looking for a job elsewhere at the end of this season, and so he doesn't want to get hurt. But you can't say that for sure because honestly, he's always going to look for an opportunity to potentially improve himself, right? And if he can do that well by playing well for the Jets, either the Jets keep him or something along those lines. If he looks good enough that he can go to another team.
Yeah, it's interesting for me personally. I think they should have just kept him as the backup, as the new starting quarterback while Rodgers is hurt the whole time. I don't think Tim Boyle should have come in to replace him, despite Zach Wilson not necessarily playing the best. But that's just me personally.
Uh, yeah, there's some interesting stuff going on there, and I mean we'll be able to see a little bit more of it unfold potentially with the game coming up here, as far as what Zach Wilson is going to do. Is he going to be able to provide some spark after missing out on 2 games? it doesn't seem likely, but I'm very curious to see the direction that the Jets will take from here on out.
Yep. Let's move into our injury report.
We got a couple on here that, let's just put it this way. Well, these players that we have on here, they're high performing players as far as players that are more likely to be found on a fantasy football roster. And not all of them are guaranteed to be out when we come to their games. But they need to be mentioned, especially if it's something you want to keep an eye on your roster if you are playing in the playoffs right now.
Yep, playoffs
got,
just started for most
yep, you got
teams.
Marquise. Yeah. You got Marquise Brown with a heel injury, AJ Terrell, who's in concussion protocol, Dorian Thompson-Robinson with a concussion, Kareem Hunt with a groin injury, Amari Cooper with a concussion, a lot of Browns players with concussions. Christian Watson with a hamstring injury. You've got Trevor Lawrence with his ankle injury that is still TBD as far as whether he will be playing in his game.
Yep.
You got Isaiah Pacheco with a shoulder injury, Puka Nacua with a shoulder injury, Derek Carr who has a shoulder injury and a concussion. Good heck. You got Taysom Hill with hand and foot injury, Dexter Lawrence with a hamstring injury, Breece Hall with an ankle injury, Najee Harris with a knee injury, and Zach Charbonnet with a knee injury, and all of them are labeled as questionable. That's like we said, that doesn't determine whether they're going to be out. That's just what they're labeled as right now. As far as ones where they are going to be out for a series of time, you got Christian Kirk. He's labeled as out for an undisclosed amount of time for a core muscle injury that will more than likely need surgery.
They're currently getting a second opinion on that one, but it's looking like if he does come out this season, it's either for the AFC Championship game or the Super Bowl if they make it that far.
Yeah. So it's a ways out, that's for sure. You've got Kenny Pickett, who had surgery basically to speed up the timeline for his high ankle sprain, but he will be missing some time, obviously, because of that. And then probably the saddest one of them all, so Tank Dell has suffered a fibula fracture and is out for the season.
Why'd it have to be Tank? He carried all of my teams that made it to the playoffs to the playoffs.
Oh, man.
He is literally on every single one of my fantasy teams, and 3 of my teams made it to the playoffs because he got like 20-point games, and honestly, I'm keeping him on the IRs so that way if I do win, he's part of that championship team.
Yeah, okay. There you go.
His memory will be remembered.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that was a tough one. I had him on a team too, and obviously I wasn't happy to lose him, but
I was just so mad because I was like, okay, I got Tank Dell, like I should get some points, and then I was flying on Sunday, and then I like checked on when I landed at the airport, and I'm like, wait, 0 points. Wait, he's out, and I'm like, I have him starting in every single league right now, and he is out for the rest of the game and no points. I'm like, this is gonna be bad.
Yeah.
Hope all these players get well soon. I want to say one thing though. What is with this season and the amount of players getting injured?
You say this every season, Shane. That's the funny part.
I know
every season.
I know I do. But I mean, this season in particular is normally
quarterback. That's why
normally not.
That's why there's so much publicity.
Yeah, I was like, it's normally not the quarterbacks. The thing is, like, we've had 10 starting quarterbacks go down at this point. It's looking bad. I mean, let's see. Daniel Jones went down. Trevor Lawrence just went down. Joe Burrow's out. Aaron Rodgers is out.
Deshaun Watson.
Matt Stafford's been out for a while.
Kenny Pickett has been injured and is going to be out for a little bit.
Kyler Murray started injured. Derek Carr.
Derek Carr's been. Jimmy Garoppolo has been bounced from his job. I mean, another one that's had.
Jalen Hurts even got injured.
Yeah, his has been kind of lingering. Yeah. He's been in and out. He's been filling. Justin Fields was out for a while.
Yeah, it was like Fields was out.
Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, I forgot Cousins. Man.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like 12 starting quarterbacks. I mean, that's almost half of the starting quarterbacks in the league, which is kind of scary if you think about it.
Yeah. You throw any others in? Let's see. You got Ryan Tannehill, Anthony Richardson. Yep. You've got. Oh man, did we? I think that might be everyone.
I think Desmond Ritter was injured for like a game.
Yeah, but he didn't come out. Desmond Ritter has been in and out between him and Taylor Heineke there, but that's not necessarily because of injury. Believe though that is everyone. Yeah.
Russell Wilson's
So,
been healthy this whole time. Gino's been healthy. I think Dak has been healthy.
yeah. Sam Howell's been okay. Jordan Love's been good. Jared Goff's been fine. Brock Purdy's been okay.
I'm surprised that Tua's been okay this season.
Right. Josh Allen, there's another one too.
Oh, okay, yeah, I think we've listed probably half the quarterbacks in the league so far.
Yeah. I think the only other one we missed is Patrick Mahomes
Yeah,
and
but
Lamar Jackson.
yeah. Anyways, though,
But with that being said, let's jump into our wows and woes. Talk about some of the matchups from this week that have both been good and pretty bad.
yep. So you want me to kick us off?
Yeah, go for it.
So the first one, and this is very much a woe pick, and I feel like we both need to talk about this one. I had the Chargers and the Patriots. That
Jeez.
game, the Chargers won 6-0. The Chargers were a playoff team last season. Were looking strong, and then until that comeback happened. But this season so far, what, they're 4-8 now? Let me check.
Yeah,
Five
it's
and
not.
seven.
Yeah,
They're 5-7, and they are not looking good. And they barely beat the bad Patriots team. Honestly, I think this was probably one of the worst games to watch of all time. And honestly, I think the main thing that needs to be said, which I feel like everybody's been screaming at their top of their lungs for a while now, is Brandon Staley needs to go. And it doesn't need to go tomorrow. He needs to have already been gone.
yeah. It has been a really rough situation for the Chargers, to say the least. There has been, and you also want to know who you want to blame, because some people are saying it's Brandon Staley, some saying it's Kellen Moore, some are saying it's just because of the contract year coming up and they don't see a future with the Chargers. Either way, I mean, things are looking rough there. And we've talked about them, time and time again as far as how the situation is with there. But how does it get any worse? The fact that it's like you won a game, but you only hung 6 points on the board, and it was against the New England Patriots.
The bad New England Patriots, not the ones that had Brady on it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we already nothing really much else to be said about the Patriots right now. We know that
They're
that
tanking.
whole they're so bad.
Oh, by the way, PFF released their official mock draft today. Did
Yeah.
did you see it at
I
all?
did, I did not see it.
They have Caleb Williams going number 1 overall to the Chicago Bears.
Everyone seems to think that's the case.
And I think it was like the Cardinals ended up with Marvin Harrison Jr. because Patriots were at number 2 and got Drake May.
Ugh.
Every Bears fan that I see, though, every single one is just like, please don't give us Caleb Williams. Give us Marvin Harrison. That's the best player in this draft.
And give us an O line so that we can actually protect our quarterbacks. It's not going to matter if it's Field or Williams.
Yeah, so it was literally Caleb Williams, and then number 5 was apparently an injury-prone edge rusher.
Okay.
Yeah, very, very interesting. Anyways, next up, I have the Chiefs versus the Packers, which the Packers won 27-19. And I mainly have this on here because lately it seems like the Chiefs are struggling. I mean, they are our current reigning Super Bowl champions, and they are looking bad, rough, not doing well. The receivers aren't doing great, and there's a rumor going around that Travis Kelce, who is Mahomes' number one trusted target, may retire after this year.
I doubt it.
I mean, he's even talked about it. I think about retiring every single day, and like every single day I get closer and closer to just doing it.
Yeah, I'm not so sure.
I don't know. It's hard to say, but I mean, the Chiefs are currently 8-4 right now, and they're not looking great. The Packers, on the other hand, we counted them out like midway through the season because they were like 2-6, and now they're sitting at
Yeah.
a comfortable 6-6 record right now.
Yeah, they pulled it off recently. I think it's like as we talked about before, it kind of helps the Packers fans feel more comfortable about the situation with Jordan Love. I definitely think they're going to make the playoffs because,
Because why?
however, However, with that said, because there's talk about, oh no, could they potentially beat out the Lions for the NFC North division title? Yeah, I wouldn't go that far, but they're all right. They're doing good. They'll make one.
They're doing interesting things right now. I mean, I expected this team to be a full-on rebuild team, but
Right.
now at this point, they're looking a lot better, and people I think need to keep their eye out for them.
Oh, definitely. I'm fully predicting a wild card seed, probably like the sixth seed or something like that. Be interesting to see, where they do stack up. But yeah, I think, they could potentially go in there and play spoiler in that
Especially because
regard.
the NFC has just had very bad teams for the most part this year.
Yeah, that's for sure.
There's literally like 4 teams that are actually like above a 500 record right now.
Yeah.
That's wow,
Oh,
that's really
it's almost like
bad.
it's almost like yeah, it's almost like the NFC South division is an overall reflection of the entire NFC right now.
Yeah, because I mean,
Great.
looking over at the AFC, they only have one, two, three, four, 5 teams below 500.
The NFC.
The NFC, they one, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Okay.
But here's the thing. Let's see. One, two, three, four, 5. 5 of those teams are sitting at 500, whereas the AFC only has 2 teams sitting at 500.
That's because the NFC South is in the NFC.
The NFC South is 3 of the teams that are less than 500.
I know. I'm just saying that's where the mediocrity exists. That
Uh,
makes sense. That's
yeah, I
why
mean,
that's what
the
you.
NFC North isn't looking great right now. The NFC West is
Oh, that's true.
confusing. The NFC East is between the Eagles and the Cowboys. The Giants and Commanders are just gone. Anyways,
All right, so we get to my picks.
let's get to yours.
Okay, I got Colts and Titans for starters. Now this one's a very interesting game. I managed to catch the end of it, which was the overtime part of the game. Which, by the way, one thing to throw in here, Shane, which I feel like hasn't happened in a while. We haven't had a tie game yet
No,
this
we have
season.
not.
Kind of interesting. But anyway, this one OT, but the Colts won out with a touchdown, which was to Michael Pittman. Thank you, Michael Pittman. You boosted my fantasy score a little bit. But the Colts, they continue to give themselves a fighting chance. They're still in the playoff run. Um, I think, once Anthony Richardson returns next year, this team could be really, really good. They're finding good ways to win.
Hmm.
As far as this season, could they sneak in as a 7 seed? I certainly think so. I think they have potential to make it in.
I mean, they're one of 4 teams sitting at 7-5, fighting for that wild card spot. So
Yeah, but what about the Titans? You got Derrick Henry, who, by the way, wasn't listed on the injury report, but he was being evaluated for concussion too. Um, but more of the question here is Will Levis. Do you think he's the proper answer at quarterback?
I say it's still too soon to tell. I don't want to believe it because honestly, I just don't think he's that good. But he's proving himself somewhat right now, so I can't
I
knock
think,
him
yeah,
yet.
I think he's doing enough to, establish himself as the starter. You know what I mean? Doesn't mean he's elite. Doesn't mean he's good, but
He's a game manager essentially.
yeah, yeah. So what does his team need to do coming down the stretch of the losing season? What needs to change here? Looks like you may have your quarterback in the future, but what's the deal with Derrick Henry? You know, what's the situation for the Titans? I really don't know how to pick it with them.
I think the Titans honestly need another good wide receiver.
Yeah,
I think the Titans receiving core is just very, very weak and one of the weaker ones in the league at the moment. Because when you got DeAndre
hmm
Hopkins, who is past his prime, and then you just got a bunch of people who are getting 3 catches, 1 catch, 1 catch, 1 catch, 1 catch, and then your running back has the second most catches on the team with 4.
yeah.
I mean, I think the Titans, that they want to improve, they need to get a wide receiver. Sadly, Marvin Harrison will be gone by the time they get their pick.
Yes, that will not be something they get for sure.
Unless they somehow sneak into like the number 2 and the Bears are stupid to pass on Marvin Harrison.
I really hope it's not the case.
I really hope it's not the case for the Bears either.
Yeah. All right. So that's the situation with those two teams. How about the real big one? The one that, okay, let me just say this. It was a game that we thought would be a shootout, and it wasn't. But it does tell you something, and that's the Eagles and the 49ers game. Niners won at 42-19. Let's talk about the Eagles first. They finally lost after being down at halftime, failed to make a comeback, first time in I think it's like 5 games. What needs to be fixed if they want to be a proper match, or really any team, as they meet in the playoffs?
And the thing is, I think the Eagles have already started addressing that. They went out and signed Shaquille Leonard today, and honestly, I would think where it comes down to, their defense isn't that good. They're relying heavily on a high power offense, but that defense just
Yeah,
gives up too many points.
which is tough because the defense I feel like was a strength last year and also during their Super Bowl run.
Hmm.
Several, that what was that like 5 or 6 years? Yeah, 5 years ago.
I think
Um,
their pass rush is pretty good too. I think it's just their secondary.
yeah, it's not the same as it was, and that I think you're right. It's definitely making things difficult. But at the same time, I don't want to. I guess you could say I don't. I don't want to use this game as an example as far as what the Eagles are struggling at because I feel like we were already starting to see some of those things poke out a
Yep.
little bit in some of their previous games, having to make the comebacks, having Jalen Hurts have to basically become the one man army in some situations. You can't use this game as an example because, as we mentioned, I think in our last episode, the Eagles are essentially just a standard, pretty good football team going up against the Avengers. That is what the San Francisco 49ers are when they're healthy. They
Yep.
are the best team in the NFL by a long shot. The win proved it. Now here comes the first question, Shane. He's the odds-on favorite to win MVP now. Should Brock Purdy be considered the MVP front?
You know, a lot of people are saying it, and I can't argue with it because I've looked at the stats and I've looked at everything else, and to me, there's no reason that he shouldn't be in the talk about it. But I think where he gets a point knocked down from him is that you look at all the other MVP candidates and it's
Uh-huh.
them putting the entire team on their back. But we
Yeah,
saw when the 49ers lost a couple of their key pieces and that Brock Purdy had to put the team on his back. That's when they got
yeah,
their only 3 losses on the season so far.
yep, yep. I agree. I I have a lot of respect for Brock Purdy, obviously,
Yes,
and I
yeah.
think he's an amazing player. But I don't think he should be the MVP frontrunner.
Mm-mm.
I don't. Um,
It's weird. It's weird saying that from like what we're saying as the best team, the quarterback is not the MVP.
and yet, if we want to talk about MVP frontrunner at this point, I love Christian McCaffrey, and I think he should be in the conversation. But he's not the frontrunner in my mind.
No,
I think we finally need to get a year where our quarterback is not the MVP.
I think it's
And
deserved. I have one candidate for it.
probably the same as mine.
Yep, Tyreek Hill.
Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill.
He's doing great, and my thing isn't against Brock Purdy. My thing is you could put any top 10 quarterback behind on that 49ers team to replace Brock Purdy, and honestly, the 49ers probably would have blown out the Eagles like 60 to 10.
Jimmy Garoppolo. They got the 49ers to a Super Bowl.
Yeah,
Jimmy Garoppolo.
and the defense has only gotten better with that time.
Oh, yeah. Defense is horrifying. That's probably one of the scariest parts about the 49ers.
Like a lot of people were saying like when the Jaguars lost to the 49ers when the score was like 6 to 30 something, everyone's like, "Oh, the Jaguars bad." I'm like, "No, that defense is just a nightmare to go against. Any good offense that goes against that defense is going to struggle. Any okay offense is going to get devoured."
Yeah. So I think, just personal opinion, but I think if we were to wind the clock back to that NFC championship and say that Brock Purdy didn't get hurt, I'm not sure the Eagles would have played in the Super Bowl.
I'm not 100% sure either, and especially now that the 49ers have added Chase Young. Oof. But yeah, Brock Purdy
Yeah.
getting hurt, they were essentially on Christian McCaffrey as their quarterback during that game. So
what it felt like. So here's the question, though. Do you think that the 49ers can have the 1 seed by the end of the season?
I think they can. They are only one win behind the Eagles for the number 1 seed. I think that they can do it, especially if the Eagles lose a couple of games. I think the Eagles have a fairly tough schedule for the rest of the season.
Sort of.
They got 2 tough games. I'll say that.
Yeah. No, they've got one tough game. My
One tough,
opinion.
one mid game, and the other 3 might be kind of walks in the park.
They I feel like they have to be. So their next game obviously is coming up this week, and that's against the Cowboys. I think that's going to be the biggest daunting challenge for them for the remaining of the season. But the thing is the other 4 games, Shane, are the Seahawks, the Cardinals, and 2 rounds with the Giants.
Such an easy end to the schedule.
Yeah. 49ers are pretty easy too. They've got the Seahawks again in Santa Clara this week. Then they've got the Cardinals. The one that could be tough for them is the Ravens.
Christmas
Could be
Day.
Christmas Day. Then they've got the Commanders. Yeah, all right. Barbecue chicken. And then their last game is against the Rams. And the thing is I know the Rams are kind of catching fire right now and everything, but during the regular season, the 49ers, even when they're injury ravaged, they own the Rams.
Yeah, especially because Cooper Kupp is a shell of his former self.
Yeah. So I think the Eagles could probably still keep the 1 seed, but it's going to be close.
Yep. I think the Eagles would have to lose 2 games, or the Eagles I think might just have to lose against the Cowboys, and if the 49ers win out, the 49ers might get the 1 seed.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing. So I think, if you're a 49ers fan, you're really hoping that the Eagles lose to the Cowboys this week, which, and I'll probably need to make the change down here, I think is perfectly possible because I think the Eagles and the Cowboys, especially with how good their 2 teams have been over the past few years, matched up against each other, I think it's a sort of like a back and forth. Yeah. I don't think there's going to be a sweep there. So the Eagles won the first matchup. I could easily see the Cowboys winning it.
Now, I will say this. I'm not even sure the 49ers would slide into the 1 seed because the Cowboys are 9-3. If the Cowboys win, they tie the Eagles. They're both 10-3. The 49ers would be 10-3, and the Lions could potentially be 10-3. So it would be like a 4-way tie at 10-3.
Yeah,
I don't know how the seeding fully plays because I know it's like, oh, if this team wins, this team loses, this team ties, and there's literally a paragraph for one team. It's too confusing. I'm not going to keep track of that.
Yeah. Cowboys have 5 more games. They've got the Eagles. Then they got the Bills. That could be interesting. Then they've got the Dolphins. It's a high-powered offense against a high-powered defense.
Yeah.
Then the Cowboys have the Lions.
Cowboys have a rough end of the year.
Yeah, and then they finish off with the Commanders, which is easy. And then the Lions on the other side, they've got the Bears this weekend. And they got the Broncos, who are frisky. They got the Vikings, winnable. And they have the Cowboys, and they finish off the Lions. Or, excuse me, finish off the Vikings.
Yeah, I mean, it's doable. They're going to have some tough games, but...
I look more at the Eagles and the 49ers.
Yeah. The top 4 in the NFC are what's carrying the NFC entire division, whereas the AFC, there's some head scratches going on right now.
Definitely, and it's a lot more competitive.
All right. You want to move on to our trending up so we can grind through all of our matchups and then get to our fun?
Yeah, absolutely. So trending up here, I think we have to obviously give the 49ers their flowers. They've cemented themselves as the best team in the NFL.
Yeah.
Be on the trending up. Other teams that are trending up, Indianapolis Colts.
I'll say the Colts, and I gotta say one more. I don't know if we put them on last week, but I think we have to this week if we didn't.
Okay.
I think we gotta put the Packers on here.
Yeah, if we didn't last week, yeah, they definitely need to be on here.
Which I said, even if they were on last week, they just knocked off the defending Super Bowl champions, which, yes, we said they haven't been doing great. But no one had hope for the Packers this season, and they're starting to surge back and push for a playoff spot at the moment.
Yeah. How about trending down?
I gotta say the opposite. I gotta say the Chiefs.
And I think the Jaguars have to go on there too, but that may come down more to injuries than it does to just poor performance.
Yeah, I would agree. That going into that game, we had 3 people on our injury report, and it was like they're barely hurt. Today, when the injury report came out, there were 13 people.
Yeah.
So they got
Uh,
beat up Monday night, and that's gonna bring them down a
yeah.
bit.
Another one you got to put on there is the Steelers. I think that's the last one.
Finally, I mean, I never have faith in the Steelers, but the fact that Steelers were like pushing for a playoff spot just baffled me.
Yeah, well, a loss to the Cardinals certainly doesn't help.
No, looks bad.
Yep. But they may get their redemption tomorrow because as we go into our matchups for this week, we have the Patriots and the Steelers tomorrow night. And Shane, we're both going with the Steelers because they may not have Kenny Pickett and they may not be great, but they're better than the Patriots.
And the Patriots might be tanking because of Bill Belichick.
Yep. So, matchup monster for this game, I have to go with TJ Watt. He's been making some comments recently about how sometimes he doesn't get the calls the way that he wants. Where he's usually being held or something or other, just in his position. I feel like that's going to turn into a lot of explosive energy tomorrow night.
Yeah, I mean, I think this game's gonna rely on the Pittsburgh Steelers defense.
Definitely. Sunday morning, we've got the Texans and the Jets. Excuse me. Whoa. In there. It doesn't matter if it's Zach Wilson or Tim Boyle. The Texans are winning this, and it doesn't matter if they're without Tank Dell. Texans are winning this. Give me Nico Collins as the matchup monster.
Yep, gotta go with Nico on this one, being the new only target. But I mean, I will say this:
He
the
did
Texans.
great once Tank Dell went down.
I was like, he was doing great, and I think there'll be an interesting matchup because the Jets do have a pretty solid defense, so it'll be an interesting one to watch.
Yeah. All right. How about the Rams and the Ravens?
I'm going with the Ravens on this one.
So I think the Rams are surging,
Mm-hmm.
and they play really, really well as far as their offense. I think it might be a little bit of a surprise to the Ravens. Here's where I go behind
Okay.
this. The Ravens have an amazing defense. And everyone kind of talks about, well, the Ravens have one of the best defenses. It can't be stopped, that sort of thing. It's not one of the defenses you want to go up against. The only one that for a while there, throughout a lot of the season, they've said, "Oh, be more scared of this defense than the Ravens defense." Outside of the 49ers, was the Browns defense. The Rams hung 36 points on the Browns.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, they got a couple of the injuries, and I will say, the Ravens, knock on wood, have been very healthy this year.
This is true, and also the offense for the Ravens can stay on the field longer than the Browns offense can right now.
Mm-hmm.
I see your point. I see how the Ravens could potentially
Th-
win
this
it.
this will be a good game.
Yeah, I'm just gonna venture out there and say the Rams get it on this one.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, I don't have an issue with disagreements on this, but I also just realized something.
What's that?
The Ravens are coming off their bye,
Mm-hmm.
so they've had some time to rest up. Ooh,
So it could be rough, or they could be rusty.
that's true. I'm like, it's gonna be a one or the other at this point.
Yep.
Who's
All
your
right.
matchup monster?
Matchup. Um, I'm over here saying that it's gonna be the Rams. So go ahead and give me Kyron Williams.
Ooh, I like that pick. I'll go the other side with the Ravens, and I will say Keaton Mitchell.
Oh, okay.
The battle of the running backs.
Yeah, I was gonna say definitely not one I was expecting to have you throw in there, but I like it.
Yeah, a little more uncommon, but he's gaining some playtime, looking pretty solid, so why not?
Yeah, definitely. All right.
NFC South showdown with the Carolina Panthers and the New Orleans Saints. We're both saying the Saints are going to win this because, man, the Panthers are bad.
Yes, they sure are. And they are the first team out. They were systematically eliminated from the playoffs this
Yep.
past week.
I mean, being
First
what,
domino.
1-12 doesn't help that.
1-11. So yeah,
1 and
same thing.
11.
Matchup monster for this game, give me Alvin Kamara, because that's probably the only thing that's going to really power the Saints.
Oh, see, I was gonna say Chris Olave.
Okay. I need to see the situation with the quarterback before I go for Olave.
That's fair. I mean, if anything else, if I wouldn't say Chris Olave, I would say the defense, just because Panthers bad.
Yeah. All right. Colts and Bengals. Now we disagree on this one. I say the Colts are going to win it. You say the Bengals get it. I feel like the Bengals can't get it on back-to-back wins with Jake Brown. That
I
makes sense.
Yeah, no, I can agree with that. Here's the fun thing. They're both having backup quarterbacks playing this game.
Yeah, I still feel like Gardner Minshew is closer to a starter than Jake Browning
Yes.
is, though.
Yes, I will say that. The thing that I think is going to come down to is that I feel like a lot of defenses, and I noticed this with 49ers games too, 49ers do a lot of these dink and dunk passes where it's maybe like a 2 to 3 yard pass, but it gets them into the first down because they're able to get that short yardage and then set up one blocker, and that receiver is just able to go a little bit further. I think the
Uh-huh.
Bengals are going to be doing a lot of the same.
I feel like that's all they can do.
I mean, watching the game on Monday, that basically was what all they did. They handed the ball to Joe Mixon or did a short pass to Jamar Chase or T. Higgins.
Yeah, and then relied on them to take off.
Get set up one blocker and just they had so much speed they were just able to get away. So, with that said, I think this will be a weird game to watch.
Yeah,
I don't know if I'm excited for it, but I'm gonna stick with the Bengals and I'm gonna say Joe Mixon.
yeah, okay. I will say that I'm gonna go with Michael Pittman.
Ooh, I like the Pittman. All right, let's move on to our next one. We got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the Atlanta Falcons, and this one we disagree on again. So
I think the Buccaneers.
I'm
I,
saying the Falcons. You're saying the Buccaneers. I want to hear your reasoning behind this one.
the Falcons were barely able to crank one out against the Jets, and I understand that the Jets actually like have a decent defense, like the one
Hmm.
good thing they have going for them. I feel like the Buccaneers, though, especially if they're able to be explosive in their run game with Rashad White, I feel like that is a situation where they will have the edge against the Falcons.
See, I thought you were gonna
Um,
say Mike Evans for a minute.
I mean, that's another option there too. You know what I mean? But I feel like we still haven't the Falcons still haven't cracked the situation where they are using all of their good players
Hmm.
effectively. Yeah. So because of that, the Buccaneers will be able to exploit that.
Okay, who do you have as your matchup monster?
Rashad White
I'm actually going to go with John Smith.
for the Falcons, yeah, that makes sense.
Hmm. I mean, weirdly enough,
Actually,
Kyle Pitts had the most catches this past week.
yeah, right.
I don't understand the Falcons team.
Yeah. Jaguars and Browns up next, and we both have the Browns winning this because of the uncertainty with
Hmm.
Trevor Lawrence, and the defense will be able to be essentially really difficult for the Jaguars to respond on that.
Because Trevor is injured and is questionable. C.J. Beathard, the backup, also is slightly injured, so who knows how long he may play if he's even gonna play. So it's looking ugly right now. So I gotta go with the Browns, honestly.
Yeah. So Browns matchup monster. I mean, yeah, at this point because it's all defense, go with Myles Garrett.
Yep, can't argue that. The defense is just going to eat the backup quarterbacks alive. I will say if Trevor Lawrence plays and is like pretty healthy, I think the Jaguars have a more fighting chance.
Yes, I would agree. All right, Lions and Bears. We're both picking the Lions on this one. Although I feel like the Bears could at least be a tad frisky, but I still
Lions,
got the Lions
Tigers,
on
and
this.
Bears, oh my.
Matchup monster for this game. I am gonna go. Well, I feel like David Montgomery will play well, just like how he did last time.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm just listing all the running backs right now.
Yeah,
He has just been so good. I gotta go with Sam Laporta.
a good one.
He he is turning into the new Travis Kelsey and Mark Andrews.
Bro, he's gotten real good. What is it with Iowa the University of Iowa just turning out real good tight ends?
I don't know, but just draft a tight end from there and you might hit the jackpot. Apparently,
Yeah, first you had George Kittle, and now you have Sam Laporta.
I mean, heck, Georgia was churning out defensive linemen like it was nothing.
Yeah, still probably are.
I mean, half the Eagles' defensive linemen is just Georgia college players.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Okay,
Oh, this is gonna be a slaughter.
Seahawks and 49ers. Look, okay, I feel like the Seahawks will do better than they did last time, hopefully. I don't know. We'll see.
Maybe
It's
another
tough.
3 points.
Yeah, probably about it. 49ers win this game. Matchup monster. Let's go with Debo Samuel. Let's say he has another good game.
Oh, I'm gonna go with Brandon Ayuk.
I won't complain about that.
I think he's very speedy. Like him and Debo are just speedy. Just get the ball to them, they can just take off.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Vikings and Raiders. We got the Vikings winning in this situation, which makes sense because the Raiders are definitely kind of a mess.
Yep.
Not as much as they were with McDaniels, but Vikings. Josh Dobbs will have bounce back, hopefully.
The pasture
But
comes back.
matchup monster for this game, the return of Justin Jefferson.
Oh, I'm gonna say Addison.
Okay.
I don't fully believe that Dawes is gonna throw to Jefferson a whole ton this game in his first return.
You know what? That's actually very possible. So you know what? Give me T.J. Hawkinson.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah. All right, Broncos and Chargers. Look, we thought at the beginning of the season, if you were to tell me that we were going to pick the Broncos over the Chargers, I'd be like, yeah, you're crazy. But here
Oh,
we
I would have been
are.
the same, but how things change in a season.
Yep. Broncos country, and your matchup monster, Cortland Sutton.
Oh man, that just made me think that I need to put the Broncos Country Let's Ride sound bit into the sound bar.
No, because we need let Russ cook Russ,
I
not Broncos country
I
ride
can get
Russ.
both. I will get
All
both
right.
on there. Oh
This one's going to
boy.
be an interesting one. Bills and Chiefs. Now, we both have the Bills winning this because the Chiefs are kind of fading down the stretch, and the Bills need a win to stay in playoff contention. Otherwise, they drop to a losing record.
Yep. Hopefully this
Call me
game doesn't go
crazy.
to overtime because the Bills are 0-5 since the overtime rule
Yes.
change.
Against the Chiefs.
Oh.
Yep.
Anyways,
Matchup
matchup
on this
monster.
game. Yeah. Call me crazy. Give me Gabe Davis.
Ooh. I don't hate that. I think I might stick with you on that one.
All right. Here's a good one. Sunday Night Football. Eagles and Cowboys. Now, Shane, originally we disagreed on this. I was going to say the Eagles were going to win, but now I'm agreeing with you. Cowboys win it.
Yeah, I will say I think the Cowboys are just ready to fight back and ho, I never told you this. When I was on the plane flying back, there was a dude basically next to me just a little bit in front of me, but across the aisle in the front, I could see his phone. He was decked out in Cowboys gear watching the
Oh, no.
49ers and Eagles game, and he was rooting for the 49ers. I'm like, every Cowboys fan's rooting for the 49ers right now.
Uh, yeah.
Hey, it might be their year.
Nah.
I think if they meet the 49ers in the playoffs, the 49ers are just going to cook them alive.
Yeah.
All right, matchup monster for the Cowboys, though. I'm going with CeeDee Lamb.
Yep. I agree with that.
He has been doing very good recently.
He certainly has. All right. Packers and Giants. That's not the interesting matchup for Monday Night Football. Neither of them are really. Let's be honest.
No,
Packers
both
win
are
it.
bad.
Yeah. Packers win it. Matchup monster. Give me Romeo Dubes.
I'm just gonna say Jordan Love. He's been playing very good
Yeah.
football, and I feel like we need to give him a
Yeah.
little bit of respect.
Right. And Titans and Dolphins. Dolphins are definitely winning it. Matchup monster. Tyreek Hill.
Yep, can't argue with Reek. I will say I'll be interested if Devon Akane does very good this game.
Yes, he certainly could.
I'm gonna put
I
him
would.
on as mine because he's someone I want to keep an eye out because he either has a phenomenal game or he does nothing.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's how it works. Let's move to our For the Fun.
Okay. It is our final playoff predictions. We will not make guesses from any point on until playoffs are set as far as what we think it'll turn into. This is always fun, Shane, because I look back at ours from last year and I kind of went, oh my, we were really wrong. So let's see how wrong we are this year as far as who we think will be in the playoffs and who the potential Super Bowl matchups might be.
Yep.
Okay, why don't you kick us off? Go ahead and name your 4 AFC division title winners.
So my four in this order, I have the number one seed, the AFC North champions, the Baltimore Ravens. I think they're gonna do pretty well, and I think they may secure that one seed. My number two, and it was a very close race between these two, I had the Miami Dolphins out of the AFC East. Number three, I had the Kansas City Chiefs from the AFC West. And number four, I had the Houston Texans taking the AFC South.
So, I'm just going to say it out there too. For my picks, I have the exact same picks. The only thing that's different on mine is I actually have the Dolphins taking the 1 seed and the Ravens going with the 2 seed.
It's a toss up between those two.
I think so. We talked about the. Let's take a look at schedule a little bit here just to see what it's looking like. Dolphins, they've got the Titans. They play the Jets. Yeah, that's winnable. They've got the Cowboys, which will be interesting to see how they do against their defense.
Cowboys,
And then
Ravens, and Bills.
and Bill. That's tough.
That's a
That's tough.
rough 3 game stretch.
But then you have the Ravens who will have the Rams this weekend, then the Jags, then the 49ers, then the Dolphins, and then finish off with the Steelers.
Ravens is going to be, or 49ers is going to be rough. Dolphins could be rough. Depending on how injuries come back, Jaguars could be more difficult than people expect, I will say.
Shall we say this? These two teams are going to play each other later down the stretch. Whoever wins it is probably taking the 1 seed.
Yeah, because it's what, week 16 when those two teams play each other, or the second last game of the season, so week 17.
Week 17. Yep, you are correct.
Let's move on to our wild cards. Who are your wild cards?
Well, I got the Jaguars with the 5 seed. I think they'll still make it. I got the Bills coming up and actually making it in, obviously. I feel like they're the best team that's still kind of hanging around in the hunt. They'll have the 6 seed. And then I got the Colts just barely edging out teams like the Broncos and the Browns and the Steelers, who are going to fall off this map.
Very soon.
Colts take the 7 seed.
Okay, my number one, I have the Jaguars because outside the Browns, when they heal up, they got the Browns and the Ravens, and I think the last 3 games are super winnable. It's the Buccaneers, Panthers, and then the Titans again. So I think I think they could easily go 3-2, and I think they'll just miss the AFC South by 1, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Then we got the Bills, which we've already talked about, and yeah. And see, I have the Broncos over the Colts because Russell Wilson, he has been doing well. The Broncos team has been doing well, where even the games that they are losing, they're not losing by much at this point.
Yeah, that's true.
But it'll be something to keep an eye on. I think it'll be a battle between the Broncos and the Colts for that last spot.
Agree. It'll be close. All right. How about our NFC? Why don't you go with your divisional winners?
All right. NFC, my number one seed, honestly, I gotta say the 49ers. We already talked about that. My number two, I have the Dallas Cowboys because I don't know how it's gonna work, but I think if they possibly beat the Eagles this week, I think they might leapfrog them in the standings. I don't fully know how it's all gonna play out. But then I have the Lions at number 3, and then I have the Falcons at number 4.
Once again, I agree with you on the 3 and 4 seed being the Lions and the Falcons.
Yep.
My only difference is I anticipate the Eagles still being able to hold on to the 1 seed.
It's going to be close.
Yep. And then I've got the 49ers with the 2 seed.
Yeah, I think what that's going to come down to is just how strength of schedule and placements of everything, because right now I can see 49ers, Cowboys, and Eagles all being tied for
Hmm.
the 1 seed, and it's just gonna be how everything breaks down to who officially gets it.
For sure. And I will admit, I would be more than willing to flip flop the Eagles and the 49ers here and say the 49ers are the 1 seed.
Yeah. Wild
Hey,
cards. So go with your wild cards.
I got the Cowboys in the 5 seed if I've got the Eagles obviously winning the division.
Yep.
And then I've got the Green Bay Packers in the 6 seed. And then I got the Los Angeles Rams sneaking in with the 7 seed.
Yep, I agree with you basically with everything. I have the Cowboys winning the division, so Eagles are at the 5 seed. Then Packers and the Rams are the exact same because every other team in the NFC is kind of really, really bad.
Yep. Oh, yeah. So that takes us to what we think are going to be our top 3 most likely Super Bowl matchups. And we need to get something very clear here, Shane. Just to anyone who's listening, before we even go into what these Super Bowl matchups are going to be, um, between both Shane and I, we only have one expectation as far as who's coming out of the NFC,
Yep.
and that is the 49ers. So all of Shane's matchups are going to have the Niners coming out on the NFC, and the same with mine.
It's the battle for the AFC because I think we can all agree the 49ers win it unless something like last year happened where Brock Purdy goes down and the 49ers are scrambling trying to find a decent quarterback to carry the rest of the team forward.
Right, but how do you prepare for that? How do
You
you
don't.
predict
You
that?
just don't. So
Yeah.
go with your first matchup because your first matchup is my second matchup and my first matchup is your second matchup.
Oh yeah, you're right. Okay, so my first matchup is one we've mentioned at the beginning of the season, which is the Dolphins and the 49ers. Again, I'm not fully confident on this matchup, basically because one, I have this sneaky feeling that the Dolphins will end up making mistakes that will put them out um, in the playoffs here. But I still think it'd be really cool to see if the Dolphins offense can still continue to run at a high level, and then to go against the 49ers offense that is also running at a high level. But then there's the 49ers defense, which is scary.
And I think where the Dolphins' strength comes from, it comes from their skill position players, their wide receivers, their running back. I don't think the
Yep.
offensive line is great, and I don't think the defense is that great, and that's going to cost them a lot.
Yes, I agree.
My number one matchup, I have the Baltimore Ravens. Honestly, the Ravens have stayed pretty healthy. They're looking like a very strong team, and it looks like they're only moving up in the world at this point. But man, I feel like I'm spoiling so much of mine because honestly, I see the 49ers winning the Super Bowl this year.
Yep.
And I will hate if it's the 49ers and the Ravens in the Super Bowl because now we have to deal with the whole Super Bowl
NFL
logo
script.
controversy where people are like, "Oh, you take the colors, it's the colors of the two teams going to the Super Bowl." And I'm just like, I don't want the 49ers and Ravens solely because of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, no, I understand and I agree. I'm hoping that's not the case.
Hey, who knows? Maybe if they play each other again, we'll get another blackout during the Super Bowl, and then 49ers fans will be mad again, or Ravens fans will be mad this time.
I forgot about that. Oh, that was great.
I remember that because so many people were just like saying that the Ravens cheated because the stadium went into a blackout, and I'm just like, what the heck is with some of these people?
Yeah, and the that it was Beyonce's halftime show that killed the lights or something like
Ugh.
that, or
So many rumors. I mean, I will never believe that the NFL is rigged until I see it like for myself and in person and like am handed a script saying, "Hey, we are 100% rigged. Here's everything that's supposed to happen." Cuz I mean, you can't prepare for the injuries and
yeah,
honestly, if you're some of these players like why would I not want to win or perform well?
right. It's like it goes back to that joke about the script where they got Tom Brady on there, and they're like, if there was really a script, do you think I would have agreed to being beaten by Peyton Manning's little brother 2 times in the Super Bowl?
Oh man, I love that. I mean, and the thing is, like, there is WWE, which is fully scripted, but I mean, what
Yep.
they are actors and performers, and their whole job is to put on a show for people to get excited about. Whereas with football, I feel like it's more, yes, you want to get people excited, but you also it's more competitive, I would say.
Yes. Yep.
All right. So let's go into our last matchup. Let's go with yours first cuz I feel like yours is one that I can see happening.
Mine is fairly predictable, but it's a rematch of Super Bowl 54. That's the one thing. It's Chiefs and 49ers. And again, it just comes more down to if the Chiefs basically do what a lot of people are expecting them to do, which is not care about the regular season and then go supernova in the postseason just because they're just trying to save their strength.
And then have Taylor
I
Swift at every game.
Yeah, and see, I think it's not impossible, but
It's
there's
not likely.
also there's also still a lot of concerns I have with the Chiefs. They say, "Oh, maybe we just don't care about the regular season." I'm like, "Yeah, but your defense just isn't quite cutting it for me." And I almost wonder if it's because of the whole Eric Bieniemy thing that maybe Mahomes is going downhill with production, or it's because he doesn't have wide receivers. I don't know. But I'm not seeing anything too impressive from Mahomes this year. Nothing too impressive from Travis Kelce this year.
Nothing
It's
impressive from Taylor Swift this year. Oh boy. Yeah,
Careful, they
I
may
mean,
be listening.
I don't hate that one honestly. I mean, I can see it happening. I don't want it to happen for the main reason of I feel like everybody's starting to get sick of seeing the Chiefs all the time because like yes, we are in a new dynasty where the Chiefs run a lot of things and we had the same thing with the Patriots and I think a lot of people are just like we're tired of seeing the same one team always make it.
Yeah.
So, for mine, I got a team that has never been to the Super Bowl, never been to the big dance. And it is not who you're thinking of with my team, it's the Houston Texans. And the reason I'm saying the Texans, I know this is like way out of left field, but the Texans have been playing very good and very gritty football. I feel like a lot of teams are going to underestimate them. And also, if the Texans go to the Super Bowl, one, it'll be their first time ever going to the Super Bowl, and CJ Stroud, I believe, will be the youngest player in NFL history to play in the Super Bowl for entering the NFL. He would be the first rookie to go to the Super Bowl.
That would be something.
And imagine if he won. Like, people would mark him down as better than Patrick Mahomes in, like, every category and all this other stuff. But I think what was going to come down to is that the Texans are going to get into the playoffs, and people are going to underestimate them, and they're just going to play very hard, very gritty football and beat a lot of the AFC teams that are going to underestimate them.
Hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, the only team that I think won't underestimate them is the Jaguars because they're a division of rival, but that's a whole other story.
It's gonna be interesting. I would honestly love it if the Texans did make it
Right?
into the Super Bowl. I don't think I could root for
Against.
them entirely because I obviously I've got a lot on the 49ers right now that I genuinely appreciate as far as players
Mhm.
go, but I wouldn't complain. I think it'd be a good game.
And I will say, if the 49ers win, which I think is very possible that they do win, I think that would also send a message to a lot of different teams saying, hey, don't pay your franchise quarterback an absurd amount of money if you actually want to win.
Yes.
Because, I mean, I look at this with Tom Brady, where everyone that's been watching for a while knows that I don't think that Tom Brady is the absolute best quarterback. I think he's a good quarterback. I don't think he's like the best quarterback to ever play. Because if you look at
Uh-huh.
all of his teams, he had very well-rounded teams. His teams weren't strong in one area and weak in another. They were very well balanced, and it was because his main thing is that he took less money than all the other quarterbacks so that he could get a very well-rounded team put on him.
Yep.
It'll be interesting.
It will be. I think, like we were saying, though, just as we wrap up here, it seems, especially after this matchup, the 49ers are on the path to destiny here. It just determines who's coming out of the AFC, who could potentially stop them.
Yep. But with that, I think we will wrap up for the night. That is our last playoff prediction. And I think we will see you all next time, next week, for more exciting, fun things. And honestly, we could see some division shakeups a little bit.
Certainly could.
With that, have a nice night and see you next time.